G'day, folks. We're back in the VHS vault. I am VHS Chase, and next to me is the great man, Jason Roy Gaston.
Good evening, or as they say on Krypton.
Just be noted, you're on the sick list at the moment, mate. So we're going to be gentle with you tonight. We're not going to try not to upset you too much.
Treat me gentle. I'm fragile. I have had the flu for like 4 days straight, and I'm a little rougher than usual. But I'm going to be like Kal-El in this movie. I'm going to just soldier on through, and it's going to be like marching to the North Pole on foot somehow. Don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's going to happen because the story says I have to.
Absolutely. Well, this story, Superman 2, if you watched the last episode, you kind of alluded, Jason, to this being the first Superman film you saw.
This was the very first Superman film I saw. I saw it on Showtime in the early to mid 80s, and I loved it. I absolutely loved Superman taking on super-powered bad guys and the entire story about losing your powers and getting them back again. This movie I want to say this movie probably just stoked my love of superheroes single-handedly, single-capedly, whatever you want to call it.
It was certainly known throughout the 80s and 90s and halfway through the 2000s as being, the best superhero film basically made at that time. I would say I would agree. And then for some strange reason, Warner Brothers didn't agree. And so I wasn't even aware there was a fan movement to try to create an alternate cut of the film. But there must have been. There must have been some.
There was there was this feeling that a great injustice had been done, and so the fans demanded that Richard Donner come in and restore his vision of what Superman 2 would have been, because as we said last time, Richard Donner was the director of Superman the movie, and then while filming Superman the movie and Superman 2 simultaneously, he was summarily dismissed. And another director whose name is escaping me at the moment,
Richard Lester,
came in, and Richard Lester finished Superman 2, which in my opinion, he did a fine job with. But a lot of people still wanted to see the injustice of Richard Donner being dismissed from the production righted, and they wanted him to come in. Basically, this was the Snyder Cut before there was a Snyder Cut. This was a Snyder Cut before there was a Justice League. And
this film doesn't exist without... Without that film doesn't exist, the Snyder Cut, without this Donner cut, really.
Exactly. And well, let's we will talk about both cuts today, I suppose.
Exactly. We will kind of bounce back and forward, I think is probably the best way to handle this. Certainly me growing up, and for the longest time, I've held this film really high. But I got to say, in the rewatch of this, there are a few things that that used to bother me and I didn't want to address, really bothered me this time. And the opening of this film bothers me. And it sets the dangerous tone, the opening of this film, which reverberates very poorly through the next film and the film after. And that's the injection of campiness. That's what Richard Lester did. He injected camp. And this whole sequence in the Paris thing, I did not gel with.
I rather liked it. And I honestly think it gave the movie something that Superman the movie didn't have, and that was the element of fun. There was I want to say that Superman 2 held Superman in reverence the way that Superman the movie didn't. But it also injected a lot of much needed fun. And I enjoyed the Paris part. Now, I have to admit, I think that Perry White is a gigantic jackass for sending Lois Lane to Paris and not telling her there's a bomb. Because, what was she going to do? No, Chief, I'm not going to go to Paris if there's a bomb. No, he would have done the whole, Lois, I would send you to Paris, but there's a bomb. Well, I'm going to go to Paris anyway, Chief, and you can't stop me. Okay, whatever you want to do. That's how it would have gone.
It feels like the whole...
Lois, I'm sending you to Paris. Okay. Where do I need to go? Eiffel Tower. Okay. Bye, I guess.
It feels like it was the whole thing in a way was kind of excuse to do the, I've got you, love. Well, who's got you? Kind of moment with the thing coming down and him saving her again. I
Yeah.
actually, and this is where we go to the Donna cut. I like the opening of the Donna cut better. I got to be honest with you.
I think it
I
gels
like
more
more.
with the first movie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love one of my favorite things about the Superman franchise, and we get less and less of it, of course, is I dig all the scenes in the Daily Planet. I
Yeah.
actually really think that for this upcoming movie, I'll even say I was a little bit disappointed in the trailer seeing the Daily Planet. I wish they would go back to this hard, cold glass offices. I don't know. I just love the aesthetic of it. But yeah,
Well,
yeah,
to me,
go on.
that's kind of a relic of the '80s, though, and I don't
Yeah, but
really
I
think
like
that
it.
they want to leave Superman there. They want to bring Superman into the 21st century.
Yeah, I know, I know. I'm just being selfish. That's what I want, and I shall get it one day. No, I mean, hey, look, if it was up to me, this is where you should give me the franchise. I would actually leave it in that time period of 1978. It would always be forever 1978.
No,
But I'm insane, Jason. I am
you are
insane.
insane because that will never happen. I
All
I
right,
would I
now,
would always have it present day, but for some reason everything's a little bit more advanced where it should be. It would be like Superman the animated series where it's present day, but everything's more advanced.
yeah,
I don't know. I
no,
always like
fair
that
enough.
aesthetic.
Um, with this film, I will say the relationship between Clark and Lois, which gets a bit schmaltzy at some parts for me. You can't deny again Christopher Reeve and Margot Kimmer. That chemistry is undeniable, and even in scenes of this film which I cringe a little bit at, it's not because of them. It's just because of the plot or whatever, what they're forced to say. But magic. These guys are magic.
Undeniable. Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve had some great chemistry together. You buy them as rivals, you buy them as lovers, you buy them as best friends. I just enjoy watching these two together. There was just this naturalness to them where it didn't become schmaltzy whenever
Mm,
it could have easily gone that way. And it wasn't mean when it easily could have gone that way. I mean, Lois could have been mean. She could have been just mean to him because she is a rather dismissive character, but it never comes off that way. And that's something that I appreciate about their relationship here is that anything that she says to him that may be seen as heartless or as non-caring is always followed up by the sense of she even vocalizes it at one point saying, I wouldn't say this about you if I didn't care. And
mm.
she means it when she says that. It's not just one of those things you say just to cover your own butt. She means it.
She's just got this perfect balance as a character of this vulnerability and this strength and this overconfidence yet this clumsiness about her, and it just creates such a well-formed character. It's absolutely amazing. But as much as these two are amazing, I think everybody remembers Superman 2 for our bad guys, right?
Oh yes,
General Zod. So
Rosad, Ursa,
yeah.
and Non.
Okay. I like the Donna cut of who did you say? Nog. No, it's Nog, is it? It's
Non,
who is he? Non.
Non,
I like the
not
Donna
Nog.
cut
He's on a
version.
different franchise.
Yeah, he's on a different ship.
Yeah,
I like the version of Richard Donner of that character than I do the Superman 2 because I don't like in the Richard Donner cut, he's far more just aggressive. Like we're not getting the silly grunts and all that kind of thing. We're not getting the trying to burn the stick moment and that. And I actually kind of prefer that. I actually think in the Donner cut, General Zod gets way more to play with and has it's a shame a lot of those scenes were cut out because once they were in there, I thought they were wonderful. And Terrence Stamp, I mean, when we get to Man of Steel, I'm going to talk about my love for that Zod as well because it's a different interpretation. But this Zod is just people forget how funny he is in his own subtle way, just with a tiny little look, like the fact that he's bored all the time throughout this film. Really, the only time he's not bored is when he's kind of trying to kill Superman. But yeah, I think he's a magic character that was brought to life so well by Terrence.
top 20 villain of all time, in my
Gotta be
opinion.
right.
And that's
Gotta
that's
be.
that's above the other General Zod, who I have issue with, but we'll talk about that whenever
Yeah,
we
well,
get
the whole
there.
movie is a different context, and we'll get into Man of Steel
Yeah,
when we
but
get there, but
this
yeah.
is one of those bad guys you watch, and he's just a joy to watch because, like I said, he is kind of bored with everything. He's like, oh, is this really the best that anyone can give me? Planet
Yeah, like
Houston, Planet Houston. I love that whole bit. It's like, yes, I am the ruler of Planet Houston.
yeah.
I enjoy Terrence Stamp's acting in this movie so much. He got
Oh,
it. He
but
got it, and
there's a moment, right, when someone says to him, "Houston, Earth," and then he realizes what cameras are. And I just love the fact that, and it's just a subtle one, but he's presenting himself to to be on TV, which I thought was pretty rad as well. Yeah,
yeah, that was
it's
great whenever he becomes his own little hype man. I just I just love
yeah,
it. "Come to me. Who will stop me?"
yeah.
There's also a bit
But
in the Donner cut that I really enjoyed where he picks up a gun and he starts shooting people with it, and he starts
yeah,
smiling. He's like, "Oh, look, I have a new toy. Isn't this fun? Look at this cute little toy." And
yeah, he's
it's
having the
it's this
best
malevolence
time.
he doesn't have in the other movie, and which says a lot because honestly, he like murders a child in both cuts. And
Yeah,
that's to me, that's like the most malicious he
everyone's fine with
gets
it.
is whenever he's sitting there going, "Ha ha 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 ha."
All right. Okay. What about the fact with the Donner cut that Marlon Brando reappearing and replacing Superman's mothers in those scenes? For
I
consistency, I enjoy seeing Marlon Brando again.
For consistency, yes. I mean, we all know my take on Marlon
Mm,
Brando in the Superman movie. I honestly kind of thought he was better in
mm,
the cut than he was in the Superman movie. I thought that,
mm.
I don't know, he delivered his lines with more gusto and more feeling. Maybe he connected with that kind of disappointment that Jor-El must have felt towards Kal-El. Maybe he was just not drunk that day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
You just
he
feel like
really
doing some work.
seemed more present this time around than he did the first time. So I didn't have a problem with it. I do think that the Donner cut benefited from the fact that Jor-El did basically sacrifice his what was left of his life for his son, and that really drives home that whole Jesus Christ analogy a little bit more because we
Yeah.
need that shoved down our throats every time Superman's on the big screen. We need to be reminded that he is basically an analogy for Jesus. He's Jesus. He's Jesus. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Yeah,
Yes, we
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Thank you.
We got it now. We got it now.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got it. So yeah, I'm gonna say that the Donner cut is an improvement over the original cut by having Brando in it. And I know anybody who's watching this after seeing my previous opinion about Brando is probably very surprised for me saying that. But yeah, I thought the movie
Mm.
benefited from him being in it.
I also think if we're gonna deal with that whole Fortress of Solitude thing, um, no, I'll save that bit. I'll save that bit. We'll get into that a little bit kind of later before I kind of jump the shark there.
Very
I
well.
do, however, say that the whole little town sequence in both versions, one of the great moments of that film is that little town moment because it borderlines on goofy, but there's a real charm about it. You know what I mean? He's not really threatening there. It's only when he gets to Metropolis, I think the Zod and the team are really kind of
He
threatening. But
he
I love the
kills a
small town
child,
scene.
dude. He
Give us a
kills a
shot.
child.
Have you
He
s-
like
have you
he
have you
kills a
watched?
child and then he like quips about it.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
I love both
I think
versions.
it's kind of funny that you're saying this though, because I remember whenever we were watching Alien versus Predator Requiem a
Mm.
few days back, you went on record saying that it's so lazy. Whenever aliens invade the planet Earth, where do they immediately go? Small town.
A small. Oh, this is different though.
Is it though?
I said
Is it
suburban.
though?
I said
Oh.
suburban. This is a small town. This is very different.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and
Okay.
let's be fair, if we're gonna go into that realm, this is one of the OGs, right?
No, no.
Like this has been repeated a million times
I'm not saying that you're wrong
based on
about
this.
this. This is honestly one of my favorite parts of the movie too. But I'm just saying it's just kind of funny how this movie makes it work whenever other
If you
movies
watch
don't.
my other channel, Talking to Me, I watched and recommended a movie called Grizzly, where not only does that bear kill a kid, he eats his leg off, and you see it.
Nice. Well, kids are
So
annoying.
obviously, you know, don't ask me to babysit anytime soon. Moving on to Gene Hackman returning
Gene
as
Hackman.
Mr. Hackman returning as Lex Luthor. I very much feel like this is Lex Luthor in this movie.
I agree. I agree. He's a sniveling coward. He is slimy,
Scheming. Mm.
double crossing, no good, dirt licking bad guy. And this is Gene Hackman at his most Lutherish, in my opinion. I don't think that he ever quite met this pinnacle again, which is kind of sad if you really think about it. But just seeing him constantly not be in charge, I think that's why I like him in this movie, is because he's not in charge. He's always trying to jockey for a position of superiority. He can't ever
Or
get it, and he's
Australia.
always and he's always trying to shift, and he's always trying to renegotiate. We're seeing Luther the businessman here, and I think that's why it works. And I love how he's just acting like he's going to get bought off by that useless piece of land with all the terrible creatures on it. Like, give me Australia.
He wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I don't even know what
over
Australia is.
here.
It sounds terrible.
It's
You
true.
can have it.
He's not lying when he says there's lots of beachside property. There's beautiful beachside
That's
property.
true. Just don't go in the water, or else you're going to get
don't
eaten
go
by
in
a
the
shark
water.
and stung
Well,
by
you can't go in the
jellyfish.
water, and you can't walk behind and go into the bush. There's a very thin, narrow line that you can operate in safely.
Where the sharks can't jump out and get you, the jellyfish can't tentacle you, and the snakes and the dingoes can't grab you. Good God, your country's crazy.
Nevertheless, yes, I even love the prison, the opening, seeing him in the prison gear. You know, talking big grandiose and talking about how genius he is, and you know the next thing. I also will say I really enjoyed the Donner cut where we got to see him and Miss Tessmacher have more to do, and I really like that dynamic as well.
Yes, and it was funny because I think you mentioned something about the campiness of the original cut versus the Donner cut. The Donner cut has a bathroom joke. And I loved that bathroom joke. I thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
Miss Tessmacher, Miss Tessmacher, found it.
That is a funny
Is the
joke.
Toilet in the
That's a funny joke.
Is the toilet in the Temple of Solitude, is it made of crystal too? Does that mean you can see what you're depositing?
I hope he's got toilet paper. Anyway.
Would that be made out of? Would he need kryptonite toilet paper?
I don't know. Well, for him to use crystals as toilet paper, Superman, he don't care. He would just go
true,
like that,
but he's got to have guests there. He's got to have like the 2-ply at least.
That's it. Well, he's got to have
one ply for Luthor.
Hey, there's a kitchen at least because he manages to set, and cutlery because he manages to set up a table and that for a date with Lois.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of strange. It's a strange living arrangement.
Yeah, you
does
feel
he have
like
a microwave hidden somewhere, or is there a TV? Or does he just go up there? Yes, here's my fortress of solitude. I've been here 5 seconds and I'm bored as hell. Where's my Nintendo?
I just reckon there's a spare room. You know, you open it up and it's just a basic apartment.
He probably flew like a trailer house up there or something.
That's it. That's it. He's got a couple of trailers at the back there joined together. He's living the dream, mate. He's living the dream. Either way, okay, I'll tell you where the campiness bothers me the most, all right? And I'm going to give you the scene of when it gets really windy in New York City, all right? So you have this scene, there's two scenes, which in the Richard Lester cut, you are exposed to not only, do you ever see that skater in the background? The guy with the, exposed to him. You're exposed to like all these goofy shots of people blowing away and trying to hold on to their hat or they're trying to grab something. And it's just kind of goofy, which a Richard Donner cut, I think that plays that moment more straight. You know, I also think that the Richard Lester influence is also in the reveal scene, which I think they filmed a couple of times. I thought that was over operatic and a bit goofy, where he kind of trips over. Why would he trip over? He's Superman. He either chose to trip over on purpose, but how's he tripping over a rug? Honestly.
Well, even Lois said maybe you didn't want to do it, but your heart wanted you to do it. Now
Yeah, I don't
that
know.
to
I
me
don't
is
buy
like,
that. That's
yeah,
with
but
the over operatic bullshit. Oh, excuse me.
I
Oh,
liked the
dust.
Donner cut better where she shoots him and he's like, "Are you crazy? I could have been,
Yes.
what if I hadn't been Superman?" She goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they're blanks, dummy." Because
Yeah. Like,
at first that was my thought too. It's like that crazy woman. What is she? Oh, blanks. Yeah, that's Lois Lane.
yeah, that's
She's
Lois Lane. She's
scheming and
completely
conniving.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely outsmarted him. That's yeah. So I kind of do agree with that as well. But I don't want to be too unkind with Superman 2, really, because even though I have a problem with the Paris scene, I do have the problem with that moment in the Niagara Falls. Although I do like I do like the moment where she jumps off the railing
Oh yeah.
and to try to prove. And there's a nice little moment where they go, no, he's trying to trick himself into the situation, which I like. I like that as well. And there's a lot to love in this third act. I think this third act's really strong. Obviously, it's dated with effects at this point, but it's still visually striking their fight in New York City. Well, sorry, in Metropolis. It gets the coke
New York
side.
City. Yeah.
Well, it basically is, right? It basically is. So,
Yeah, it's New York
uh,
City.
yeah, can't deny it with the
They have the
design of
Statue
it.
of Liberty. They had the World Trade Center. It was New York
Yeah,
City.
yeah,
Come
it
on.
was New York
Quit
City.
calling
Yeah.
it Metropolis. It was New York.
Um,
Superman's in there. Get out
yeah,
of my
but
way. I gotta change my clothes, all right?
yeah. Okay. Now, everybody's had a problem. A lot of people have had I say everybody who's seen it, who has a logical brain, has a problem with the S, right?
Oh, the cellophane.
The cellophane
Yes.
S at the end of this movie really is, and that's a Richard Lester idea, I believe, as well. So I think that is kind of disrespectful to the character because at no point do I think, unless I'm wrong, unless there's a comic book fan out there who go, when actually issue 187 of,
Yeah,
who
comment
drew a
if it is.
cellophane in. It's
Okay,
not a
let's
common power.
let's be honest. Superman has a lot of powers of convenience in Superman 2.
Yeah.
He has the cellophane S. He has the ability to woo, 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 to like make duplicates of himself, which he's never
Yep.
done before.
Yep.
He has an amnesia kiss, which he's never had before. It's just
Yeah.
basically, oh no, how do we get out of this situation? I know, amnesia kiss. But you
Yeah.
know what? Even the amnesia kiss is better than what Richard Donner came up with.
Before we
Because
dive into that moment, I know.
okay, well, I just want you to know that whenever that happened, I I had not seen the Donner cut until just a couple of days ago, and I was sick with the flu watching it, and I started yelling at the TV. I started yelling, "No, no, no." I threw a sock at the TV. I was angry. I was cursing Richard Donner. I was cursing everyone in that movie. How dare they? How dare they do this? But we'll get to that here in just a moment, I
Well,
suppose.
yeah, we will, because I think that's a topic definitely worth
That's a big
discussing.
no-no is what they did.
But I realized rewatching this how much of an issue I have for his reasons in the original cut for giving away his power. Because he's giving away his power to get some booty.
Yeah.
That is what it's down to. All right, which is
Wow.
completely un-Superman like, completely. Because
Well,
he
this is
it
basically
is
like a 40-year-old version kind of thing, though.
kinda, yeah, and which he kinda instantly regrets, right? He gets
Well,
his
I mean,
butt kicked
just
in a cafe
just
and he's
like
like,
any
"Oh,
guy,
no."
the second that you get it, you're just like, "Oh no, what have I
He
done?"
sees the news in the cafe after he's had his backside handed to him, and yeah, it's time to go back. Um, and but what they do with that um, is well, I think they did a different version in the Donner cut, but the whole idea of he's got to go in that chamber to remove his powers, and for somehow because he's a tech guy as well, he flips the switch on that, and that's how we get Zod and the rest going down. Which is a great moment. I always remember that moment too. Is like, oh, as Terrence Stamp gets his hand crushed. I love that.
I love that Zod doesn't even get like a last moment. He's just
Oh,
that's like his last line. Oh!
yeah, yeah, it goes
And
out like a little punk.
quite honestly, anybody who complains about the way that Superman dispatched Zod in Man of Steel can shut the hell up
Uh,
because Superman, like, basically had Zod at his mercy and killed him anyway. So don't sit there and go, "Oh, Henry Cavill should have not killed Zod like that because he was getting ready to kill Superman wouldn't kill people." And you didn't say a thing about Chris Reeve? No. You don't know what
Well,
you're talking about.
when we get to Man of Steel, I'm a big defender of. That's a very important scene, and
Not a huge fan of that movie, but I'm a defender of that too. But
I,
we'll talk
I,
about that
I,
when we talk
yeah, when
about
we
it.
get there, we're jumping
I
ahead a
hate it
few
when we
movies here.
agree on stuff. I like it when we fight.
No, I think we will fight about Man of Steel because I hold it rather high.
Okay, cool, because I hate that
So that'll
movie.
be cool. And yeah, look, at the end of the day, this movie with those with Zod and all that, and with Superman, I think it carries through and covers up a lot of flaws with this movie because there are a lot of flaws, and they're very obvious now in 2025 when you go back to see a movie in 1981, how simplistic some of the plot was and the ideas, and yeah, leading to basically what they do at the end of the Donner Cut chase.
Yeah,
That was
can
a
we talk
giant
about it
segue just
now?
to get yes. I
Okay.
was just doing a giant segue there.
He
Go.
spins the planet backwards again. What the actual fudge were they thinking? Just spin the planet. I preferred the amnesia kiss, even though it didn't make sense either. It's like, let's take the worst ending in the history of anything ever and do it again. That was
It's
so
really
dumb.
there are a couple of reasons for that, Jason, which I know of. So it's not an excuse because I never should have done it. I would have rather gone to a hard cut to black. Is the fact that apparently was the original intended ending of Superman 2. So it was
Ugh.
never supposed to happen in Superman 1. It was supposed to
Ew.
happen in Superman 2. But they took that scene and brought it forward,
Ew.
you know. The second thing was he didn't when he went in to do the Donner Cut, he had all the footage, but he only had that one ending. So I think it's very disappointing because it's never made sense. It's a horrible
No,
idea.
it
It
is.
plays into the worst instincts of them with that character. But yeah, I mean, it's a better ending. The original cut is a better ending. There's no doubt about it.
I don't disagree. It is a better ending, yes.
And it's a real kind of shock because I think everyone, when they were going into the Donner cut, would have thought, at least we're not going to get the spinning planet thing again. And he delivers the one thing everyone would expect him not to do. So,
Do you want to know what I think is the funniest lapse of logic with the Donner Cut?
mm,
That is the bully in the diner.
yeah.
Because from the bully's perspective, he's never seen Clark Kent before.
Yeah.
And then here comes this nerd walking in, like
Mm.
doing laser eyes at him, just like walking right over to him, tells him, "Excuse me, you're sitting in my seat." The bully's like, "It's not your seat. I'm sitting here." He
Mm.
goes, "Well, how about we step outside?" And the bully's like, "Okay, let's go step outside." And then this bully, this geek, this nerd with the glasses, beats the crap out of you, throws you across the bar, smashes you into a pinball table, and you have no idea what you've done to him.
Well, exactly. And I really hate it as a character choice.
I
Like,
do
I do
too.
not believe that Superman would be that vengeful. Like, and so I've always had a problem with that, you know? Um,
I have too, and
yeah.
I think that there are a couple of moments in this movie that really do the character of Superman a disservice. And it's not only the vindictive, vengeful Superman who is
Mm.
going after some normie, but it's also basically he mind rapes Lois without her consent
Yeah,
with the
wow,
amnesia
right?
kiss. It's just like, and she's
Wow.
like, I'm just having a difficult time. I promise I'm never going to reveal your identity to people, but it's really hard for me to do this.
Uh,
And instead of saying, "Well, Lois, I can take this away if you want me to,"
yeah.
he just like,
Ah,
"No, I'm just gonna oh here, kiss me. Mwah. Now you, haha. Now you don't remember anything, and your
yeah,
brain's
yeah.
probably damaged. I'm Superman. Whee!"
It's not a great choice. And I think when you look at it now, that movie, you can tell that actually they're in a bit of a mess by the end of this because
They
they
are.
were able to pull off a movie which was much loved, But really, if you're going to be honest, it's a little bit messy, this film. Hey, with a budget of $54 million, which in 1981 was a lot of money, probably equal to a $150 million production these days. Well, this is domestic. This is internationally, I believe, was $216 million. So it made a lot of money, 4 times its budget. So it was huge. It was a massive success. I wore out the VHS of this film. I absolutely did.
Do you want to know something that's kind of ironic with the whole erasing Lois's memory thing? Is
Well,
that as a child, I did not understand that he did erase Lois's memory. I thought that she just kind of, whenever she said, "What happened this week?" she was pretending like she didn't know. And then I watched
uh,
Superman 3, where she doesn't really show up for a whole lot of the movie. And
uh,
I thought that she knew in Superman 3. And I was just kinda like, "Oh, okay, yeah, she's just
yeah, see,
keeping a secret."
that's
So
we'll,
it
we'll get
was
into
the
that.
the whole thing, the whole erasing Lois's memory thing was not even needed,
No.
and I think Lois could have known. I
Well,
actually think the
I
dynamic
believe that
between
is
Lois and
true.
Clark works better whenever she does know, because after a
Exactly.
while, Lois just becomes an idiot.
Exactly. And I do believe I'm in the camp of thinking she does know in Superman 3.
Yeah,
Um, absolutely, which we'll kind of get into. Now, this is where I'm going to be a massive hypocrite. As much as I pick on the cheesiness of this film, like in the campiness that Richard Lester brings in the next film, because he's not trying to remake a Richard Donner movie, his campiness ends up being an advantageous thing for that film because it's a horrible script. So the campiness kind of, and Richard, we'll get into
and
that in the
yeah,
next one.
we'll get into that.
But this film, like, I'll watch it again. I'm not going to say I'm never going to watch it again. I'll watch Superman 2 again. I'll get on, want to do another binge, one day in the future. It's flawed. There's no doubt about it, but it's got like I said, one of the greatest villains of all time. Unbelievable performances by Terrence Stamp, by Christopher Reeve, by Margot Kidder. Everyone's on fire in this. It's just, I suppose it's the 80s and it's still a genre that they didn't really have a handle on how to write these movies. I don't know, but given the choice though, I'll watch the original one over the Donner cut. Isn't that odd?
Same. Same for
Yeah.
me. I think that the original cut works better. I think that if Richard Donner had managed to be at the helm of both movies through the entire process, we might
Mm.
have ended up with a more coherent story between the two. But as they are right now, they're the only cuts we got, and I prefer them as they are. I will
Yeah.
also say, just building off of what we said about Lois knowing Superman,
Yeah.
to this day, my favorite reveal to Lois, between Lois and Clark saying, "Hey, I'm actually Superman." My
Mm.
favorite reveal has been from My Adventures with Superman. Whenever he
Yeah.
says, "Lois, I have to tell you a secret.
Mm.
You're Superman." "How did you know?" "I'm a reporter, Clark. I know you're Superman." And then he immediately goes to Jimmy Olsen. "Jimmy, I have to tell you, I'm Superman." He goes, "Oh my gosh. You told Lois before you told me?" Because he already knew too. I just love that.
Yeah.
I love the whole, "Yeah, we know
It's
you're
the only way to
Superman."
deal with it. Well, really, that's why they're avoiding that whole thing, aren't they, in this new Superman movie?
I
Yeah, we've got a well-established Superman. I don't think it's even actually, I don't know what the philosophy is in DC. Are they embracing the secret identity system, or are they going more in a Marvel way when it's like, "Ah, screw it. Unless you're Spider-Man, everyone knows who you are."
I haven't read a DC comic in a long time, but the last I read, Lois knows who Superman is, and a few other people know who Superman is too.
Yeah, and I
I don't
think
know.
that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I can't remember if this is something I saw on TV or if this is a sketch I came up in my brain, which I think would be if I came up with it in my brain, I'm brilliant, and if I have, then I'm copywriting the idea. Just this whole thing about everybody knows Clark Kent is Superman, but nobody wants to
Yeah.
say anything because they're afraid that Superman will kill them. It's like, "Clark, good job on that story, but chief, there were 84 misspelled words." "Shh, shh, shh. You know he's Superman, right? I
You're
want to be on
getting
Superman's
into,
good side."
yeah, you're getting
"Clark, are
into
you
the
really
boys
Superman?"
territory there.
"Shh. You're not the first Jimmy Olsen." "Shh."
But that's what makes the boys so great. We get to explore
Yeah.
that through our Homelander. Like, what is if Superman was the worst? And we get to do that, which is great. Because as much as we could fanboy out about the concept, if they ever did that with these titular characters, I would so reject it. Like, don't do that to the hero. Do it like they do with the boys. You know, it's kind of built for that, you know, or Invincible.
I could see if James Gunn did some Elseworld movies where he's talking about,
Maybe.
like Kingdom Come or something like that. I could see them doing
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, you
But
know,
yeah, it has to
yeah,
be alternate.
Clayface should be violent as far as I'm
Oh yeah,
concerned.
I want to
But
see full on body horror with
yes,
Clayface.
if you're not
He
doing
was
body horror with Clayface, something's wrong.
he was scary in Creature Commandos. He was just that one scene where he's watching TV and
Mhm.
they're having a sneak by and
Yeah.
just the face forms in the back of his head goes, "I see you." I'm just, oh my god,
Yeah, that's a great interpretation, I think, as well. Well, here we
Captain
are.
tearing up my
We've
room again.
managed within half an hour, by the looks of it, to cover our
Yeah,
thoughts on Superman 2 and the Donner Cut.
yeah.
I think
Still my favorite. Don't care what you say. Still my favorite Superman movie so far.
okay, all right. I need to think about that more because I think I disagree. However, I honestly, I got to say, I'm looking forward to talk about Super because I have a real that film hit me in the right place as a kid. I was the right age. It's a movie I watched a lot. Superman 3. I was into video games. I remember first seeing, oh my God, look at Superman. He's like in computer generated graphics, like 8-bit graphic. It's an 8-bit version of him, but I'm still
Yes,
excited about
and it uses sound effects from the Atari Pac-Man
it. Yeah,
game
which
too,
is
which I thought was
wild.
really funny at the time.
But I'm not going to mention. I think everyone knows this is one of the most terrifying moments in all the Superman movies. Happens in Superman 3, but we'll talk about that then. Before we get there, Jace, do you know what we're doing next on the VHS vault?
Why? Yes, I do. If you
Yeah,
just give me a moment to
I
look it up.
had.
While I'm doing that, tell me about the shirt that you're wearing. What
Of
is that?
course.
What is a talking tubby? Are you the
Okay,
talking tubby?
Tubi, Tubi,
Oh, I thought
Tubi,
I
the
thought
streaming
talking
service,
tubby was
Jace.
you. Okay, go ahead. Tell
No,
me more
I'm
about it.
talking about the single greatest streaming service in the world, Tubi. Why? Because it's free. Why? Because it has all the best B grade, C grade, D grade, Z grade movies out there. And my show, Talking
Yeah.
Tubi, is a celebration of that, Jace. So if you go over to search in YouTube, Talking Tubi, you'll find me. I'm also on Instagram. Third episode is just gone up as we speak. As we've been filming this, I threw the third episode up. It's a lot of fun. We're talking barbarian movies this week, but
Ooh.
female barbarian movies because
Oh,
I'm a pervert and
yes,
the
you are.
show's rated R. So if you're sensitive, may not be for the show for you. But if you have an illness like me, it'll be right up your alley. So go check it out.
Sounds amazing. And our next foray into the VHS vault will be revisiting one of the greatest comedic minds of the last 500 years, in my opinion. We're going to be like
Mm.
taking a look at Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, a absolute classic. Mel Brooks, I believe he just turned 98,
Still
so
around?
he is
Still
still
around?
around. And you know what? I hope that I am in the ground and
Yeah.
long forgotten the day that Mel Brooks leaves this earth, because I don't want to live in a world without Mel Brooks. So
It's
yes,
look,
Young
it's fair to
Frankenstein.
say. It's fair to say it's a fairly definitive movie in comedy, I would say, especially for that decade. Well, it was his. That's when he was on fire. 70s and 80s, Mel Brooks is just
Yeah,
making hilarious
without a
movie,
doubt,
but
without a
this is
doubt.
right up there. And you know what the good thing about this one? Because he made 2 films in the same year, I believe. This got released as well as Blazing Saddles. You can actually watch Young Frankenstein without it being too problematic. So, yeah,
Yeah,
Blazing
you
Saddle
you can't
is a
watch
little bit.
Blazing I love the whole thing about, yeah, they could never remake Blazing Saddles today, and you're right, they couldn't, because people would just watch your movie and say, "Hey, that's Blazing Saddles," and then Mel Brooks would sue you. There is a movie called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's called The Legend of Hank or something, and it's about cats and dogs, and it's an animated movie. Michael Cera's in it, and it is a remake of Blazing Saddles.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, they lift entire scenes, they lift entire dialogue and everything.
Oh, wow.
And
There we
I
go.
was shocked whenever I saw this. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Let
the
me even try
dogs
and
are,
hide.
the cats are."
Ah.
The new Sunrise
Um, uh,
it's not a good
yeah, and you
movie,
know
but it's
what?
a remake of Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles too. A lot of the cast of Blazing Saddles are actually in Young Frankenstein,
Yes, they are.
which will be great. And we have a tie to tonight's movie is a tie to Young Frankenstein because Lex Luthor does make an appearance in the film. Gene Hackman is
He
actually
does.
in
Yes, he
one of my favorite
does.
scenes in the movie. So, but actually, I've got every scene in that movie is a favorite scene in the movie. Anyway, I
Yeah,
think you're getting an idea what I think of the movie. So,
lots of memories about Young Frankenstein that I can't wait to share. This is a movie I'm not even going to have to rewatch because I have it
no,
memorized. So
yeah, I haven't. But you
I'm
know
ready.
what? I'm
I
going
can
to
talk
rewatch
about
it
it right
anyway.
now. Yeah, I'm going to rewatch it
Gonna,
anyway because it's
yeah.
great, and you should watch it too because I mean, you've got oh my gosh, you've got Terry Garr, the unfortunately just left this earth Terry Garr. You
Yes,
have got as we
we've
said,
lost
Gene Hackman. You've got Mel Brooks. We have got oh my gosh, I'm
Gene
going
Wilder.
blank.
We've got
Gene Wilder.
yeah.
God, so many great names in this, and I think it's Mel Brooks' most beautiful movie too. Just the black and white is just
Oh,
so wonderful. But I'm going to stop vomiting
yeah,
praise for this movie. I'm going to save it
yeah,
for
yeah. We may rewatch
next
it and
time.
we go, "This movie is a disaster." What were you
No,
thinking? No,
no,
no, I know.
no, that's not. If I came on here and said that Blazing Saddles was a disaster, just right in the forehead, please. And
Yeah,
of
no,
course, the week after the week after Young Frankenstein, come back and join us again because we're going to be taking a look at the infamous Superman 3, starring Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor. Because of course, whenever you've got Superman, you want to team him up against the guy from the toy.
yeah. Which I remember liking as a kid. I think if I watch that again as an adult, I might have some issues with it.
Yeah, I'm
However,
hoping it doesn't destroy my fond memories. We'll see what happens.
yeah, well, same with Superman 3. I don't know. But we will talk about it when we do get to it. They have a plot device in this film that was being copied several times.
Yes.
And there's actually one movie that references it, which is really
I
great.
know exactly what you're talking about
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that when we get. But meantime, these guys, if they want to support us, and they should want to, because we're just so damn entertaining.
Oh my
How
gosh,
can
yes.
they do that, Jace?
Oh my gosh, if you want to be a Superman or a Superwoman, please join us on Patreon by visiting the link in the video description below for as little as $5 a month or more. You can help sponsor Jason and I as we try to ascend the ranks of YouTube like we're characters on Mortal Kombat. It is cheap, just like us, but it is not free. So we would appreciate it if you joined us. I have the hiccups now. There we go. They're gone.
Now stop breathing too.
Stop breathing for a second, but I'm good now. You do get perks. We just had somebody sign up for our highest tier the other day, and so they're going to get a personal roast from me. So yeah, you got it coming. I'm sorry the flu kind of slowed it down, but it is coming your way. You got it coming.
Fantastic, brilliant, good stuff.
Yes.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time in the VHS vault. I mean, I suppose we will. I think contractually.